very good feel factor that to see few of you or most of you in the branches and a few of you actually attending. As of now, as I see 109 people is a phenomenal there. It's a very, very good number for any Zoom call to happen. And I think the way it is going, political meetings also, soon you will be paid to attend Zoom calls too. For this sort of viewership. So thank you all for taking your time out. Most importantly, my sincere thanks to each one of you to decide, refresh and upgrade yourself. See, these trainings sometimes, it's like a book. I can keep on giving you a book, but it's up to you, to each one of us, to decide what I should pick up from the book and what I should read from the book. Book by itself can be a source of knowledge for all, but can be a turning point for a few if one decides to read it and abide by it. It's as simple as that. That book can be holy books, or that book can be a story book. It's immaterial of that. So all these trainings, if I have to put it in a very simplistic fact, all we can, I can say is just go through it and put your best of your mind and heart into it. And it's imperative that we get the height of heart and mind coordination during this training, for a simple reason that you never know, you might land up in picking up a good habit. Okay, that's a very important probability. And I have attended many trainings at your age and at your time, and I think most of them turned out to be a turning point by giving insight of one or another. It's not like one training is going to be a solution provider for all. So my question to you all is, you might know many of the things, you might have executed many of the things, but it's imperative that as and when you read a book or watch a movie, one or two will stand up into your top of mind and one or two will sediment into your heart. Allow that probability of vulnerability in you for you to lift yourself towards the objectivity of learning. Otherwise, learning can become a very boring process if someone is continuously going to preach you. This is one thought which I thought I'll share it with you all. Now, why training? Why all of a sudden, when lockdown is happening, when most of you are inside the branches, you can ask this question. See, it's very important, okay, for any bank or for any institutions at any given point of time to align three things: the way we operate, the way we represent, and the way we build. These are the three things. These are the three important, perennial problem and foreseen opportunity in life. Why I'm saying perennial problem? Someone needs to mute. Yeah. Why I said perennial problem was, there's very important thin line between actually intentionally good, contentionally good, and executing good. So as a BM is the most important role for any industry, and all the more for financial institutions like banks, because people see Equitas through each one of you in this call. I think there's no escapism for you as well as for me from the reality. You are the Equitas senior, you are the Equitas brand representative, you are the Equitas bridge of building trust between the society which we cater to and to the branch we have put in. So if this being a reality, getting a consistent quality across people is becoming a very imperative drive. So as we move up the ladder, as we keep expanding, how do we institutionalize the art of process adherence? How will we institutionalize the art of product mix? How will we institutionalize the art of profitability, which we call it as P&L, becomes a very important point, without compromising on ethics, without compromising on credibility, and without importantly doing an act day in, day out, which is monotonous by nature, to build a creditworthiness and trust in the society we operate in, which means we are operating on 3-4 very critical variables. On one side, qualitative aspects like whatever a BM do in a branch has a direct perceptionary index to the society. Whatever he does good gets magnified. Whatever he or she does good gets that much amount of impacted also. So there is a perceptionary error, and through this perceptional, many of the time, believe me, perceptions are real. There is nothing called vague perceptions or false perceptions. If I say that this guy is good, my experience with that person is good. So there is an experience attached to it. So your perception on the society is based on the experience or customer experience what we are giving. And when we are saying how does this customer experience gets built up? Through the process adherence, what we have made it, is the process customer friendly? Are we improvising and are we implementing at your level? So at a BM level, the implementation and adherence of process becomes paramount importance. And as we are doing this process centric approach, are we delivering a right product which is needed for that market? That is why we have an approach of pool of liabilities and pool of insurance, and which most of you are aware of it and are implementing in day in and day out. So are you doing these things by choosing yourself or by just choosing on that situation? So it's very important for each one of you as a BM to know what sort of a BM I am, and am I choosing my best version to deliver at every given point of time. So my belief is, if every BM decides to choose himself to be the best version, chooses to process adhere, chooses to product mix, he creates a definite real perception in the market that people will stand up and start watching up. And we keep, whether we like it or not, even doctors are laddered in our mind. We keep saying this doctor is better than that doctor, this architect is better than that architect, this engineer is better than that engineer, this taxi driver is better than other taxi driver, even the vegetable vendor we rank. So the experience of consumer, as you see, is directly proportional to the intent of what you have in you. So if you choose yourself to be the best version, what happens is you automatically chooses the best people to work with you. Once you have best people to work with you, the cascading effect of it, best of the customer starts walking in. So all these things of choosing yourself as a best act is the fundamental first step which you are taking in your life to build your life along with organization goals. So there is no shortcut for this at all. So my submission to each one of you is, choose yourself. Don't act before choosing. It's a very, very important thing in life. How do I choose myself? I choose myself. It's like I can say religion. How do I practice Hinduism? How do I practice Islam, Christianity, or Jewish or Buddhism? There is a laid down boundaries, which is called processes. If you trespass, your inner self will automatically say that you're trespassed, and you will have a complex and feeling of, am I letting down my society, my religion, my family, my friends? That inner feeling is what is called process. Process is not jugaad. Process is walking actually the toughest path. So if you all know, there is a character called James Bond. He's the only character actually when it was conceived, okay, that he will become she soon. If you go through the history of James Bond is the only character which is licensed to kill. It's a very important thing. So the creators had a major difference. They said, how can you create a hero character which will have a mass worship given a license to kill? So you can go back and watch all James Bond movies. So he says, but this character is given a very difficult task. He cannot take the easy route or shortcut. He has to go through the longest path. He has to go through the toughest path. So if you see any of the fight sequences, any of the intricate moments of James Bond in action, please don't see him James Bond with his heroines. That's a different part. That we will take a different class for you all. At this point of time, I'm characterizing James Bond as an action hero, James Bond as a mass hero. So he was given the task of, created with the task of walking the longest path, toughest path. And in that journey, shooting is the last option. That is why if you see any Telugu dub movies, hero first thing he'll do is stab one who is coming in front of him. Correct? If you go to James Bond movies and watch, he will try to slap, he will try to hug, then he will try to roll with the villain, whether it's a male or female. He is unbiased there. So each one of you have correlating. Now we can go on and on Bond movies. I have done some good understandings there. Coming back to our process sometimes might be touching the nose from your neck. That's okay. That's what banking is all about. We are operating on a regulated environment. We have to go through the process. So BM is a custodian of process. He is responsible for implementation and regulation, and most importantly, application of process. BM is responsible to choose himself as the best version every day. Through his best version choosing, he will also decide to do choosing best of the people to work with him. While he's choosing best of the people to work with him, they will get the best of the customers and best of the efforts in that market. Through this, we create two unimaginable stuff, which unknowingly will keep growing up, our trust and credit in the society. So there are a couple of fraud incidences in those markets. Our trust and credibility are lowest step. For example, Arulpuram, Junagadh, Surat, Vashi, I know at least 5-6 branches where irreparable damage is done by the act of one person who is supposed to be as good or who is respected in the society as a branch manager decides to beat off. I myself, today I'm sitting in this chair. I myself, I can roll back some 18, 19 years back, I think, a Citibank branch. I was a branch manager. I was a very proud branch manager. I was a very proud branch manager for a simple reason. I still remember my 21-member team, each one by name, and few of them are working with me also. That's a different issue. But remembering them is far more easier. But I have not forgotten, and those people still want to, and we want to still work together for a simple reason. That's the unit. So branch manager only creates something called unit. There is no other institution which has, other than army or a navy or an air force, can have a unit. Only bank can have. And you are responsible for the unit's credibility, unit's trust, unit's preference on the society. At the same time, you are choosing yourself to be the best example. You are choosing your best people, as I said. And through this, you are creating the best of the experience and best of the perception. Now leave all these things aside. Now coming to the business part, business manager is also responsible for business. There's no shortcuts for that. Of course, we are a profitable organization. One of our core value is, pride of performance. So there cannot be running away. So if you have done these acts right, performance become an auto mode. It is like a flight takeoff or landing. I think somewhere in 2002 or 2003, the biggest change happened in aviation field. The biggest change was most of the things got automated, including, taking off and landing of flights. Today, pilot just, sits there to monitor the systems, whether it's working or not. So that's the advantage each one of you have at this point of time. If you automate through selection of yourself best and people best, customer best, and adherence of process, you land up in an absolute automated zone. Then performance is based on your product mix. Performance is based on your customer profile mix. And if you get that product mix and performance through this available pool, right, P&L becomes a byproduct. Now, assume reverse a BM decides to do. A BM decides not to obey the process, selects a lousy team, decides to give a bad experience, and decides to do a mis-selling, and decides to show a profit, temporarily. That carrier has never lasted beyond 2 years, because fortunately or unfortunately, of late, society and God has become also fast food preferers. So I've seen so many carriers who have started with me as a BM, including Citi, is now distorted and deserted. Because in this industry, your personal brand is based on word of mouth. Your personal brand is based on your process adherence. Your personal brand is based on your team's performance. Your personal brand is based on consumers' trust. So you are building your brand. If I have to say a brand A manager, brand B, today I know there are multiple customers who vouch for only BMs. And the reality is that. So don't undermine your role and take the, right side of life. I'm not talking about left and right at this point of time in terms of ideology. I'm saying choose the best way of life. There is no right, left out here. You have to implement. Banking is a boring business. There is no doubt onto it. Process needs to be implemented. There is no doubt onto it. You are not responsible for deviation out of process. Absolutely taken. But you are responsible for creating a perception, experience, trust, credibility, getting right people in form of employees, getting right customers in, getting the right product mix. Through all this tough job, you will deliver P&L. And I have no doubt onto that. Because all of you, most of you, while I have spoke about 5-6 branches, which are outliers, which have actually let me down, let me not beat around the bush, they actually let me down. I had phenomenal trust. I thought 100%, but it just goes to prove that probability of existence by itself will have weeds growing. So those 5-6 as part, I think most of you are doing a phenomenal job, including as of today, attending this training, opening the branches during this lockdown period, abiding, taking care of customer service. I think hats off to most of you. I don't think I can do it. But when you're doing this, these trainings are done to refurbish you, to refresh you. There might be a few doubts which you will have in terms of how do I manage the optimum product mix, how do I manage the optimum P&L. So I'm seeing BM as a profit center head more. I'm seeing BM as a customer executive manager, in the sense chief executive of who will deliver the customer. A BM who is the utmost law-abiding citizens, what we have seen. A BM who is a soft-hearted fellow who drives his day-to-day life by choosing himself. A BM who is simple, friendly neighbor. This is what is expected out of you. And I think if we can get this act right, most of you will see your prosperous journey beginning towards new steps. And as you upgrade yourself after this training, I'm also planning something for digital training. It's very important because world is changing and the customer perception about experience is changing. So I've been already discussing with our zonal heads and our senior management to create a digital corner in every branch so that we have a digital experience center like what Apple does, or what that's a long shot. But anyway, it will happen in a year's time. So if we have to move towards all those stuff, fundamentally, banking is only on two pillars. Please remember it. One is best of people, another is best of technology. Convergence of these two is called bank's foundation. There is no shortcut. Come what may, 100 years from now or 100 years before, bank is decided by a banker, and that banker, the most responsible banker in a bank, is the BM, and he decides the fate. We will get the best of technology. As we getting the best of technology, I promise each one of you, you will be trained, tuned towards become best of the technocrat, best of the financial planner, best of the transaction expertise. All those things I can train. I can give you all those things. But fundamentally, you have to still do this 5 act. As I said, choosing yourself, being the best version of you, adhering to the processes without any deviation, selecting best of the people, and those people will get you best of customers, going through the product mix and managing performance and participation. This will take you to P&L. There is no other mantra. This is the longest route. There is no shortcut. And for the few fraud people who have done, their families are in distress. I myself feel at times very bad because their families call up and cry, sir, kuch to karo, ye karo. It's not possible. The person who has gone into the other side of life, there's no way back. So I'm seeing most of you, 99% of the people being adhering, complying, friendly. I'm trying to just put up a boundary and a framework to make BM's life far more structured, BM's life far more predictable, BM knowing what he or she has to do, and BM actually becoming the face of the bank. So through this exercise, we will only say that we will empower you, we are energizing you, and we are creating a empowered ambience for branch managers through this. So with that note, I welcome you. As I said, the best of the book can be handed over. I'm sure that is handed over by Sunanda and Vasanthi and Mr. Prasad. It's up to you. It's up to you. Personally, monitoring so many people is not easy. But if you, as I said, if you don't choose yourself best version, you can land up in saying, this I knew. And remember, most of the stories, most of the movies we knew before it began, including Titanic. But we decided to watch because there was a emotion. So this learning and development is emotion. Unless you emotionally connect to this subject, this can be one of the most boring 3-4 days. And I hope that with this good beginning, which I'm also happy with the way I spoke today. Let me not beat around the bush. Some days it happened. So you all can appreciate me in your own place. So thank you very much.